Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are calling you all friends today. Welcome, friends. I'm Rebecca Johnson, your host. On behalf of plant-powered Metro New York, we are so glad that you are here today to celebrate and commemorate Martin Luther King Jr. Plant-powered Metro New York is doing amazing work in our great city to introduce New Yorkers to whole plant-based foods. If you're new to this community, please see more about plant-based programs on the website at plantpoweredmetrony.org and on Facebook and Twitter at plantpoweredmny and Instagram and YouTube at plantpoweredmetrony. Thank you also to our co-presenters, SUNY Downstate Committee on Plant-Based Health and Nutrition, the Brooklyn Health Disparities Center, the Washington Heights Inwood Food Council, and the Heart Smarts program at the Ronald O. Perelman Heart Institute at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center. Today's celebration is being presented and sponsored by the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Thank you to all our co-presenters and sponsors. When Leanna Reisner and Plant Powered asked me to assist in the coordination of today's event, a question came to my mind, which you may also be asking. What does food justice have to do with the mission of Dr. Martin Luther King? Quite a bit. Besides the famous quote many of us know that says, "A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," I want to share another that I had not read before from his Nobel Peace Prize speech. And it says, "I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits." We're here because Dr. King had a dream. As a chef and educator working daily in schools in New York City to support school lunch and teach children and families how to make healthy choices with wellness in the schools, we focus on food, feeding New York's families, which we know, and we have definitely seen those who are working in food, the difference during the pandemic of making sure that all families in New York City are fed. But now we know that it's not just enough to feed, but it's to feed healthy food. Foods that will help the mind and body grow. And that's what Plant Powered is all about. I have my own story. I'm not going to tell it to you right now, but basically I had a precancer diagnosis and I went plant-based, and that is history by 20 years. So today we have 4 talented plant-powered chefs from the diaspora making some of their favorite dishes. And these are all done the plant-based whole foods way. Our moderator today, and we are so grateful to have her, is Chef Nina Curtis. She's the director and executive chef of Adventist Health, Vitaliz Café, and Culinary Arts. Chef Nina is in California, and she continues to be recognized as a leader and trailblazer in plant-based culinary movement. So we are grateful to have her here. She's going to introduce our 4 chef demos for the day, and you are going to see some delicious dishes that you will receive at the end with a guide so you can make these same recipes. So let's get cooking. Thank you, Chef Nina.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Plant Powered Metro New York, for inviting me to join you and others that are tuning in from all over the country. I see your comments. I'm super excited that we're going to be made hungry for sure, but we're going to hear 4 different chefs talk about their dishes and why they chose these dishes. And we're really talking about, as Rebecca said, and as Plant Powered Metro New York is so intent on making sure people understand, we definitely want to follow the things that Dr. Martin Luther King believed in, had a dream about, and we keep moving forward for food justice, food security, and food sovereignty. And the 4 chefs today working with us emanate that. They're activists in this, and they work throughout the Metro New York area to make sure, as Rebecca said, children and adults have a right to, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, everyone should have 3 meals a day. No one should go hungry. And those of us in culinary know that there has to be more done to reduce food waste. And many of us are working to have zero waste kitchens. And I'm loving the fact that over 20 years I've been a plant-based chef. And this is a dream come true to join this organization and Rebecca Johnson as your moderator today in talking with these chefs and learning from them. I learn every day from other chefs. So we are going to get started because we have so much to share with you. I will come back after every chef has finished their dish, and I've got some questions for them. I'm also going to be watching the comments and asking any pertinent questions you may have for them. But we have a beautiful guide with all the recipes that the chefs are presenting so that you will be able to use that, try the recipes, and give feedback. I know you're going to love it. Our first chef coming up is Chef Keeley. I was able to meet her last week. She is a beautiful soul and just an awesome and heartfelt chef. She works with Plant Powered Metro New York on the East North New York, get it right, Nina, network organization. I'm so excited. I want her to get on so I can get hungry. She is a food activist and community chef. Chef Keeley is spreading the word about the healing power of whole plant-based foods, the nutrition in it, and also how we can take from heritage and not give up any of the foods that we are used to eating, but learn how to use more plant-based foods with the seasonings and the flavors and the textures that we are used to, but even better. Even better. So I'm excited to welcome to this event, Chef Keeley. Hello, Chef Keeley. How are you?
Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Keeley. I'm so excited to join you. I decided it's important to share with you the legacy of Dr. King. The one thing I want to highlight is we talk about Dr. King as a minister, social justice. We don't really talk about him as a foodie. And so today I'm excited to share with you that through my research in doing this, preparing for this presentation, I learned that Dr. King loved collard greens. So I chose to take collard greens as a topic for today because collard greens are accessible throughout the country and especially in East New York where I'm an organizer. And also part of my excitement is to highlight the fact that Dr. King ate and had dinner with the women chefs in the community, which means that you have the role in advocating and helping us to have access to healthy food. And the lady who made sure that Dr. King and other activists have the rights that we are now enjoying is Miss Georgia Gilmore. She was a chef midwife, and she did a lot of fundraisers for Dr. King. And so I hope that as we learn about her favorite food, we also take into account that we have a role in playing in making sure that we have access to healthy food in East New York and elsewhere. So I just want to make sure that you realize that we are making spicy collard greens, and I'm sure many of you have seen collard greens, and you know, it's a staple for our community, and we just have to make sure it's accessible and affordable to everyone. And so I will be demonstrating how you prepare your collard greens. I made sure that I choose a recipe that is simple because as I joined Plant Power Metro New York, I have to say I was suffering from knee pain, and just making sure I eat more greens, I no longer have pain. And I just want to thank Plant Power Metro New York, all the sponsors, all the chefs joining us, and all of you, so we can learn how we can fight for food justice and make sure that our communities learn how to reverse all the diet-related diseases that are affecting African American communities. And so I'm not going to take long, but I just want to show you that we are the answers to our food justice problems. So most people think it takes a long time to prepare collard greens. It just depends on how you like your collard greens. So one thing I want to just show you is how easy it is. You just remove the stem. You could and this is what you end up with. And so it's just that simple. And I already have something here prepared to show you. All you have to do is just take this, and then you just fold them and do like a cigar, and you can just make sure that it's tight, and you could just cut them, and then that's how you do it. But basically, I will be showing you how to cut and then prepare the collard greens the simple way. I'm only using 4 ingredients or 5 ingredients: water, garlic, smoked paprika, onions, and hot peppers flakes. And that's all. I just want us to really engage in talking and figuring out how best we can support the legacy of the Dr. King by reimagining and connecting with our African American traditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef Keeley. So you're going to get started?
Yes. So I'm going to move my screen. Can you see my screen?
That's a beautiful shot. Thank you. We can all see it. It's beautiful.
So this is what we do when we say, you know, roll your collard greens. It's just that it's just this simple. And what I'm going to do is cut the collard greens into ribbons. And basically, cutting collard greens this way gives you an opportunity to cook them in different ways. I am all about simplicity. I'm all about affordability, but delicious, healthy, using fresh ingredients. And this is what your collard greens will look like. So for the purpose of this dish here, what you do, you will take your onions, make sure your pan is hot, and you put the onion sauteed for about 3 minutes. Then add your garlic, saute it a little bit, and keep stirring. And then you just keep adding your collard greens in bunches. And then you add water as you go. And then as it sweats and reduce a little bit, then you add your red pepper flakes and your smoked paprika. And you just add water after everything it's connected and it's getting hot, and you add the rest of your water. And so you just steam it and let it cook for like about 20 minutes, and your collard greens are ready. And you can enjoy your delicious collard greens. The reason why I did this recipe, because African Americans ate a lot of collard greens, and all I'm doing here is to show you you can start simple recipe and then add other ingredients that you enjoy. And I just added lemon here, which means you can eat the collard greens cold and take them for lunch, eat them for lunch and dinner, or even add soup, make a soup the following day. The goal is to eat as many greens as you can. And so I'm really excited to share this, a favorite of Dr. King, and also to remind you that there has always been women, Black women chefs, who are supporting the social justice movement. So we need more women to support food justice in the metro area. I would like to thank Plant Power Metro New York for this opportunity to join these amazing chefs, and also to a shout out to my community in East New York for also showing me love all the time by opening their community gardens and also giving me an opportunity to serve them on various capacities. So thank you all. I'm going to enjoy my collard greens, and I hope you're going to. By the way, collard greens are on sale at Whole Foods today, so please go and get yourself some collard greens. So thank you.
That looks so good. Why are you teasing us like that, Chef Keeley, with those spicy collard greens? I want, while you're enjoying it and we get to eat, watch you eat, so we have to live vicariously through you. I just want to shout out a few people that are leaving comments so you know.
Thank you.
Welcome, Nicole and Noreen and Rachel and Aura and Lawanda, Sharon and Judy and Yetka. Welcome, welcome. I've got more people to shout out, but I'm loving these comments. They're drooling over those greens, and I love the way you chiffonade, ribbon cut them so that, do you do that for a specific reason versus chopping them, as a lot of us know?
Yeah, the reason why I'm doing this way is to allow you to think about various recipes that you can do. You can do a salad, meaning eating raw. So by massaging them a little bit with lemon, it softens the fibers. And also you can cook them the Brazilian style, where you saute it a little bit and then add your lemon. So the reason for cutting them in ribbons is to give you variations, new ways of eating collard greens, so that you don't feel like it's boring. You don't feel like it's hard to cut and wash. It's just a matter of remembering that our tradition is about eating whole food, plant-based, eating sustenance, so we can continue to fight for food justice, accessibility, and affordability. So I am asking everyone to think about Ms. Georgia Glenmore, who made sure that they fight and they raise money and they keep the movement going. So I feel that Plan Metro New York need all of us to be able to support what they're doing and support our communities. And I'm excited to join everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. I've got a few questions for you if you don't mind.
Of course.
I know also that a lot of times we, boil the collard greens down traditionally, some people. My great grandmother would use a little peanut oil and saute like you did, but she'd rough chop. So how do we know sauteing when it's just right? What we call the tooth, the bite. When you bit into those collard greens, what was the texture, if you will, or how does someone know? Because a lot of times people are used to them being cooked down for hours, right? And
Yes.
this is not taking a lot of hours. It's really quick, and you can eat these actually every day. So give us a little tip about knowing when it's just right as you saute them.
Basically, it's about your taste. You have to develop the taste. You have to taste as you're cooking and see if you can enjoy it. And if not, you cook down a little longer. But the goal here is to develop new taste. And this is why I am showing you this way, so that you can think about steaming, sauteing, and cooking. But the goal is to have as many greens as you can per day. So the goal is to have a pound, 16 ounces of greens every day. So this is one way. You can juice them, you can cook them. So it's about making sure we will reach that goal of having a pound of greens every day in our bodies, so we can heal and reverse this diet-related diseases in our communities.
I
Chef
love
Nina,
that.
I'm so happy that you brought that up, because I was thinking about your recipe, which is a salad, which is in the guide that everyone who registered is going to receive. And then I also thought, that's so beautiful, Chef Kaylee, and thank you so much for what you're sharing about the community and making sure that you get greens in your body, because that is something that we miss many times. I work with kids, and when you say green to them, they go like, ugh, right? So we have to find ways to make the food fun and inviting, because there's nutrients in the greens you're not going to get otherwise. But one of the things that I wanted to share was that I did learn a Brazilian recipe, which you mentioned, which is a raw collard green salad. And what you do is you marinate it overnight, which softens up the toughness. I grew up with Southern parents. They would cook the greens for hours. And so I went to a beach party one time, and I took this raw collard green salad. People could not believe they were eating raw collard greens, but it was because it was marinated overnight. So I'm so glad that you're talking about the fact that you really don't have to cook them that long.
Right.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's so awesome. Okay, I want to ask you a couple of more questions. And Rebecca, you're so right. With the collard greens, the salt, just a little salt, we'll start cooking them, bringing out the water and tenderizing them. And then the lemon does that too. So you can do it in a marinade overnight, because let's be real, there's more than kale out there. Kale is not king,
No,
but collard greens are definitely green.
in my community.
That's so awesome. So tell me, Chef Kile, as a chef, what do you feel is the most that celebrates your heritage working as a chef?
It's community. It's understanding that you're not alone. You are part of a community. All you have to do is go outside. I can only talk about my East New York community, whereby we have developed structures whereby you can come to Success Garden, and there's always events. You are invited to just come and sit in the garden and watch us work. And also you can get your hands dirty. And it's really important for people to know that nature is healing, and we want you to start using all the holistic ways of healing. And so please think about us in East New York. If you really want to start growing food, start enjoying outdoors, start getting your hands dirty, because we believe you are what you eat. And I can testify that today I can stand here with no knee pain because I decided to eat more plant-based diet. And so please go and check out Plant Power Metro New York. We are here to support you. We want you to heal. We are learning together as a community, and I'm excited that I have this opportunity to highlight the work that I've been doing, and also to know that I'm not alone. There's other chefs that are committed to making sure that our communities have access to healthy food. We just need to make sure that we advocate and talk to our public officials to help us to increase access and affordability of fresh food in East New York and in the metropolitan New York. Thank you.
Chef Keeley, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Success Garden? I work with an organization that owns the Blue Zones projects, and they studied the longest lived people around the world, and several studies that they've done over the past 16 years. One was having a garden, and it actually showed that it adds years to your life. Having a garden, growing your own food, being able to get down and touch the earth, and know that your food that you put on your plate, your collard greens, you put that seed in the ground. And so there is so much to having a garden. But tell us a little bit about the Success Garden so everyone knows what that is. Thank you.
Well, basically, Success Garden is one of the community gardens in East New York. East New York have about 58 gardens. Success Garden is one of them, and it's one of the biggest gardens in East New York. I love Success Garden because the operations manager, Miss Aura Goodman, always opened the garden to the community. She collaborates with the community organizations. But because of who I am, I also go to other gardens that are owned by New York Restoration Project. I've been growing at a Williams Community Garden because I feel that I'm like Miss Glenmore. I'm about collaborating and moving the masses to the gardens because I understand that it's healthy to be out in the sun, out watering. And also I'm from Africa, Lesotho, where I grew up eating seasonal. So a taste of tomato, it's something I remember from being a little girl growing up in Lesotho. And so it's not always about you don't have a garden. It's about building community. And this is what I love about Plant Metro New York, because we are building communities. We are reimagining our food system. And so it's exciting to have professionals, health professionals, who will be participating and helping me to make sure that my community understand the assets they have in their communities, because sometimes people need to hear from the doctor. And so it's wonderful to know Plant Power Metro New York have doctors and nutritionists who will also help us to understand and digest the information, because we live in a world where corporations are giving us information that makes us not think gardening is an asset, that eating food seasonally, our bodies will heal that way. And so we are in action with Plant Power MetroCard to reimagine a new food system. And so I'm so excited to join all of you, and it's possible. Just as Dr. King and Ms. Glenmore and all the other civil rights activists made it happen for their communities, we can also do the same. So I'm really excited about this coming season, and I'm excited to join all of you who wants to do the same, because we can do it. So thank you.
I love that, Chef Keely. I love your enthusiasm, your commitment, and your activism. Next question for you. We know you like collard greens. What is your least favorite ingredient to cook with that you can think of?
Well, I mean, I have to be mindful about the type of peppers I use, because we grow different peppers in East New York, and so it's really important to be mindful that other people may not like the heat, the spiciness of the food. So it's really, I have to be mindful about that. So that's hard for me because I forget that not everyone is exposed to eating fresh ingredients, and so the heat can be a little high when you use fresh peppers. So I have to watch that.
Yes, I understand. When I went to Senegal in 2018 and we were making a condiment for the dish we were cooking, and I did all vegan, all plant-based. And we didn't even cut open the Scotch bonnet. We just put it in so we could really pull out the flavor. And it made such a difference because some people, their palate just isn't used to as hot a food as and that's very mindful and intentional in your cooking. One more question I have for you. Where do you believe the future of Black foodways is going? What do you envision? What is your dream?
My dream is to see children to elderlies having fresh food every day, plant-based food every day, because we get confused because we see so many things in packages and we don't think we can cook fresh food. We think it takes too long. So my dream is to see everyone having fresh collard greens as often as they want, because you need to be in the kitchen. You need to touch your food. You need to engage with your families. You need to break bread together and sit down, just like Dr. King and all the activists were doing in Alabama. We need to go back to that. Today, children are eating in their bedrooms with their phone, watching TV. There's no communal dinners. It's really important. And also, I would like to see more people walking in nature, visiting community gardens in their neighborhoods, and really letting our public officials understand we like fresh food. Black people are sold produce. If the blackberries or blueberries are not right, then they're going to tell you. If the peaches in the summer is not ripe enough, they will tell you. So please stop underestimating our palates. Give us an opportunity to enjoy food as we know it, because like Miss Glenmore was known for her delicious dishes. And so I am envisioning all the people eating fresh food every day and sharing with their communities and their families, sitting at dinner tables, because that's what's going to heal us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chef Keely. I know your dream is manifesting because you have joined us here. I love the work you are doing with Plant-Powered Metro New York. I know all of us in the audience that are listening can't wait to try your recipe, and we can't wait to join you again. I'm sure many people will reach out to you and tell you how delicious it was and is. And just thank you for all your contributions, your activism work, and everything you're doing to make sure it, takes a community and a village. And I am here with you on the West Coast coming through, but I know all the love on the East Coast is there with you. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, thank you everyone who is joining. Thank you, Plan Metro New York, and the Black chefs that are joining. You made my day. This is my dream come true, to be able to share with the world what I have been doing in my life, which is fight for food for everyone. And so thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Is everyone hungry now? I mean, I don't know. I can't wait to see the other dishes that the chefs are going to present to us. Remember, you're going to get a beautiful guidebook that has all of the recipes. And I would like to introduce our next chef coming up, Chef Brandy. She is a plant-powered Metro New York chef. She works educating all over, and she has her own. She's the founder of Plant Candy, which helps people to take the guesswork out of eating simple yet delicious and nutritious while having fun. Because shouldn't food be fun, Chef Brandy? We're going to have you put your mic on so we can hear you. I don't want to miss a word you're saying. She's got it all set up. We love this technology. It always works for us. We're just going to get her in place. I'm going to go off screen. And Chef Brandy, I just want to have you say a few words, and then we'll just watch what you're presenting for us today. What are you going to be presenting?
Y'all, can you hear me now?
Yes, wonderful.
Yay. Great. So yes, I was saying yes, food should always be fun. And what I'm going to be doing today is a devil potato. So it's a play on a devil day. And why did I decide to pick a devil potato today? Well, potatoes, as far as my family history is concerned, play a big deal. Like my grandma always tells the story about when she moved out of her house, her dad told her, as long as you have a potato and an onion, you can always have a meal. And that's been something that's kind of been passed down from my family forever. My friends sometimes like they know like I'm like kind of addicted to potatoes. And so in this process of having fun with plant-based foods and figuring out how do we take some of our favorite foods and make sure that we are leveraging the textures of those foods and building in familiar flavor profiles, the kind of devil potato kind of came from that experience. So what I'm going to be doing today is making a deviled potato, and we'll talk while I'm putting it together, and I'll infuse some stories and all that good stuff. So I'm going to get up, head over to my board, and start constructing.
Wonderful. We're excited to watch this double potato in action. I'm just getting hungrier by the recipe. Take it away, Chef Brandy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so devil potato. So what I'm going to do, because I want to add a little bit of extra to it, and I also want to use this as an opportunity to show us how to not waste food. One of the things that we talked about before is the importance of like not wasting, and I think especially as people in the Black community, that's something that we've kind of mastered from the beginning of time. We've learned how to take things that were waste to others and kind of create things out of them. So when we're talking about making a not wasting a pepper, the best way that I found to cut it is to cut the top and the bottom off, right? Because then you can utilize the bottom piece. You can push out this piece right here, this little center piece right here, and literally once you take out your center, the whole pepper is up for grabs. So you're not literally wasting much of this. So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of to start with. And we're gonna make some relish with this, some fun peppered relish to kind of go on top of these devil potatoes. Now, potatoes, I know, aren't just something that my family's really into. Potato salad, something that's super huge amongst Black people. I think the potato, some of the research that I did about just like the potato and why people like tend to like it. Number one, it's absolutely delicious. And it's, in addition to that, it's really inexpensive. Like now, even as we watch food start to go up in prices, you can still manage to purchase like a 10-pound bag of potatoes for about $4, which is cheap considering. I mean, last year there was probably about $3, so they have gone up, but it's still not as high as some of the other things. And potatoes are super versatile. Like, I mean, something as simple as like home fries, French fries, baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, potato salad. And now today we're learning about making the devil potato. So that's the one thing like I love about potatoes. They're super satiating, really nutritious. And unfortunately have gotten a bad rap over time, just because there's this thought process that the potato is the culprit for people's like health issues. But really, it's not the potato in isolation. As when we take the potato and start adding things to it, like butter and cheese and bacon and sour cream and what have you. Now, don't get me wrong, that stuff is absolutely great, but we can't blame the potato for the additions that people actually put on it. So that's just something to think about. A lot of people think when they think about the potato, they think we only can have like the sweet potato, otherwise it's not nutritious. But really, the regular old white potato actually has a lot of health benefits in it. It's funny enough, it's rich in fiber, potassium, calcium, vitamin C, and vitamin B6. So just the next time when you're thinking about, oh my goodness, I don't know if I should have a potato. I'm not really sure if that's something that I should eat. Is it healthy? I say go for it. Potatoes are like super, super great. They're also like really like easy to store, right? So as far as potatoes are concerned, you can store them outside of the refrigerator. And once you make them, like they transport really, really easily. So just something. And I also thought about like this dish, right? When I'm thinking, double potato, what am I going to create for like MLK Day? I always think about like Martin Luther King and all of like the stuff that we learn about him and his work, the movies that we've seen about him, just understanding and knowing how the movement, the civil rights movement was put together. Like it's something where there were lots of people involved, and you always see Dr. King with lots of people around, and it's something about, I mean, I know it would have been a deviled egg, right? But things like eggs, which were a cheaper source of protein, so it was why people used them. And potatoes showed up a lot because number one, it allowed us to be able to feed lots of people, and lots of people around. This particular dish, like I always think of deviled eggs for me as a group item. Like I've never personally been like, oh my goodness, like I'm home by myself, I'm going to make myself some deviled eggs. It always had to be like a reason for us to make deviled eggs. So what I just did during this was I cut this what do you call this? I cut this pepper up, put it in a bowl for the relish, and I'm also going to do the same with an onion. And I want us to also have an opportunity to see how we can cut an onion, right? So a lot of times when we're prepping fresh food a lot, it can be a little stressful because like this new act of prepping things can be can be a little overwhelming, right? Onions show up a lot. I mean, onions were totally a food group in my family, and I know that that's the truth in lots of families. Even if people didn't like onions, they would use onions to flavor the food. So it's something that shows up a lot. So I always love to show how you can cut an onion in the most efficient and easy way, right? So this is the bottom of your onion. This is the top of your onion. You always want to cut like straight through the middle of it so that you can utilize this back piece of it to hold everything together, right? You cut the front off to make it a little easier for you to be able to peel the skin. And in the spirit of not wasting, what we can do with the skin from an onion is put it into a bag, put it into the freezer, and save it for a broth. So after you have accumulated enough onion skins, maybe tops of carrots, celery bottoms, all that good stuff, you kind of put it into a pot with some water and you can make some broth. So again, making sure that we're not wasting food, right? So we're talking about doing an onion. We want to use our lines. That's what I always say when we're cutting onions. So we want to cut from front to back, right? Cut from front to back, but not all the way back, because that back piece that you left on keeps everything intact, right? That's why you keep that on. And because we're doing a relish, we want these to be relatively small pieces. So because we want them to be relatively small, what we're going to do is cut more lines across the top, so closer together. In the event that we were going to be using like bigger slices, we would cut them with more space in between so that we could get bigger slices of onions. So just a little trick if you're trying to efficiently cut an onion, because like I say, we use onions in literally everything, right? So then you go back and you cut this way. And I cut onions on camera all the time, and I have not cried to date. And I say it's because I've managed to kind of master this proper onion technique, and it just really makes preparation easy. So just happy to be able to share. this, especially if you're cooking for like lots of people. If the preparation is more efficient, it makes it so much easier. So I just put those onions in with the relish. And now we're going to start to construct the filling for the good old deviled potato. So what do we think the ingredients in a deviled potato are going to be? Obviously, the main ingredient is going to be our good friend, the potato, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the potato in half. So what I did before, cook these potatoes, and I steamed them because I didn't want them to be too wet, but you can boil them or bake them. I just happened to steam them. I find that that's the most efficient way, like the easiest way to do it. And then I take a melon scooper and I scoop out the center of these potatoes and leave them as a little vessel to be able to fill this up. Now, when I first tested out this recipe, I literally kind of made this the same way that I would make how you would make an egg. So I'm going to show you with this potato kind of how I was really working hard to kind of mimic like what the egg would look like. So depending on kind of what you're after, you can really make it appear like an egg, how like the egg has like that bottom piece and then a lot at the top so that it looks kind of more like an egg yolk and egg white relationship. The feedback I've received from my friends, however, who were testing them were like, Brandy, we want more of that fluffy, like filling stuff in there. So we don't care about all this pretty like presentation. Just give us the eggy, filling. So depending on who you're serving, just something to think about in your preparation. But now I've kind of evolved to just kind of scoop out this center, get as much of the potato that I can to kind of start to build that filling out. So there we go. So we get our fillings. We have our potatoes. We save them on the side, right? Now, when we are building I'm going to mash these because it's easier. You can use a fork. This is a potato masher. Obviously very, very beneficial because we're using potatoes. So when I just literally took the recipe that I had from a child that my parents used to make deviled eggs and just made them kind of plant-based. So instead of mayonnaise, I use hummus, which works kind of cool. I think it's that tanginess from the tahini and with the chickpeas that kind of gives us like this nice creamy tanginess that really works in this deviled egg. Also some relish, which I feel like is key. I know some people don't use relish. Some people use I've heard like cut up dill pickles, but we were like a sweet relish family, so that's how this recipe kind of came about. In addition to that, mustard. Now I use a mix of not white mustard, of Dijon mustard and yellow mustard, but you can use either or. I just like to add the depths of whenever I can. This is just some regular old garlic powder that adds to it. Any event that you're using, say garlic hummus, you might not need to add that garlic powder in, but if not, it adds a nice little flavor. Also some hot sauce because hot sauce gives everything just a little kick, but also just like a little extra. And in addition, it helps with like a low salt intake. So in the event that you're trying to cut down on your, salt intake, peppers do a really great job of that. So this turmeric is added mainly for color because I just want this to look a little more yellow when it's all said and done. And literally mix this all together. Kind of reminds you of potato salad when you first kind of get it going. And you don't want to whip it. I will say, like, if you try to whip it, it gets kind of gummy. So like take the time to really like mix it together, mash it with your spoon, mash it with your potato masher. I'm going to mash a little bit more because there's some like big chunks going on in there. I'm going to get all of those kind of broken down. A fork works well too. So if you don't have a potato masher, that'll be an option. Also, we're going to add a little bit of water. That also helps. And a little splash of apple cider vinegar, which also gives us like some more like tanginess. In addition to that, it helps us to make this a little more creamy and pliable, right? So we have this.
Brandy.
Yes.
I have a question for you real quick. Is there a particular hummus that you recommend using? And is vegan mayo okay in place of the hummus in the recipe?
Yes, in the event that you have vegan mayo, that will totally work. And if you're gonna do oil free, I like the Engine 2 one if you're not gonna make it yourself. And if you are going to be using just the packaged hummus, I like the Tribe hummus. So those are my recommendations.
But I love how you're limiting oil with the hummus, especially if you make it from scratch. It's beautiful. I'm really
Yeah, and
hungry. Thank
honestly,
you.
once you make it like hummus yourself, you don't want to eat from a package again. Like it's such a different experience, and it's so easy. So if anyone's wants to experiment, that's what I would recommend. Additionally, now the cool thing, that the magic of the devil potato comes in this right here. And I wish that there was something called Smell-O-Vision. We haven't gotten there just yet. There's this Japanese company that's doing a Taste-O-Vision. I don't know if you guys have read about this. I don't know if I'm interested, but we have not gotten to Smell-O-Vision just yet. And this is black salt. And what is cool about black salt is that it is sourced from the Himalayan mountains, which has a high sulfur content. And sulfur is the element in eggs that give it that eggy flavor. So literally, like when I broke this up, you can literally, it smells like literally eggs, and that really helps. Now I don't use a lot of this inside because it is still salt. So what I do at the end, you'll see, I just put a little bit on the inside just to kind of introduce the flavor to the dish. And then at the end, you finish it off with a little bit of the salt. So that first bite gives you that egginess. You don't have as much salt, but you still have that experience of the deviled egg, even though you're eating a potato. So if you don't have any black salt, I would say grab some and make sure that you got the Himalayan black salt. There's a Hawaiian black salt that exists that is not as sulfury. It gives you some of the flavor, but it's the one from the Himalayan mountains that really does it. So then I just literally put this filling into a plastic bag. If you have a pastry bag, totally go for it. If you don't, a sandwich bag works just fine. Put it in. And then you just push it all to the end. All to one end. You cut a little end off. And you take your bag and you pipe in your filling. Right? Really simple. I mean, some people spooned it in. I find this bag technique to be just so freaking easy. So I've kind of adopted it and ran with it aggressively. And then we want to just get back to our good old relish that we're going to top these off with, just to give it a little extra texture and flavor, because that's something that is a key in food. Like, it's really important to make sure that like food is fun and good for you. You don't have to pick one or the other, right? And I find that color, different flavors, different textures kind of enhance that experience. Yeah, I will say that I always laugh when I think about the paprika spice, because literally in my family growing up, the only time we used paprika was when we were making deviled eggs and deviled eggs and potato salad, just to kind of finish it off. And so when I found out about smoked paprika, as I explore more flavor profiles to build into, it's become my new finishing for our good friend, the deviled egg, because it gives it a little more texture. And then finish it off, like I say, with that little bit of the black salt, so that you get that egg flavor on the first bite. And when you're all said and done, you end up with a beautiful tray of deviled sweet potatoes. So
That looks delicious. We eat with our eyes first, and boy, I'm telling you, The colors, the presentation, everything you've shared looks so good.
Thank you. So yeah, that's the goal. And I mean, literally, like, if you took these to a party, blindfolded people, and had them bite into it, they wouldn't know that it was not a deviled egg. Simply, but it's that sulfur and that salt is the key. So that's the deviled potato for today.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Chef Brandy. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. I'd love to ask you.
Definitely.
I have one question, and they're asking, how do you keep your potatoes from turning color? I'm imagining after they've been cooked, sometimes they can go brown on us. Can you unmute?
Yes.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I have two cameras different bites. I usually don't refrigerate them, or I keep them in water. Like that seems to be like the two things that help me to make sure that they don't turn. Yeah, that's been my experience.
Okay, so don't refrigerate and don't keep them in water. That's a great point. I love how you pointed out all the different tips. One, the piping, you don't have to go and buy a piping bag. You could just take your bag, cut it at the tip, and then pipe in it. It makes it so much easier just to get the right amount. You can get a little decorative if you want, and then you put that delicious relish on top. And then you talked about saving your onion skins, and maybe if you have some carrot skins even, and the celery, freezing it so we make our stock. As chefs, we'll start with that. There's no salt, but then you can take that to make your broth. And I know you cook without oil, so the broth would be another way. If you tell us a little bit, the broth would be another way to not or replace cooking with oil. I think people really need to understand how that's done without losing any flavor and satiety of your dish.
Yeah. So what's interesting? So I see a lot of people. What I see people like go wrong in the process is they put the oil, the broth in the pan, as if they're using it to replace the oil. The problem with that approach is that you lose the caramelization, and that's kind of what we love in food. Like we love to have the crunch, the brownness, the caramelization. So what I recommend is to make sure that your pot is properly heated. And I always say, how do you know if your pot is properly heated? You put water you drop a little water in. If your water just sits there, it's not hot enough. If your water goes into the pan and then separates and evaporates quickly, it's too hot. If you put the water in and the water kind of dances, I like to call it the dance. If the water just kind of bounces around and then goes away, then it's properly heated. The pan is properly heated. You put whatever your ingredients in on it. Just let the heat do the work. If there happens to be some type of sticking or what have you, then you can use your broth, you can use a vinegar, or you can even use water if you don't have any of those available, just to bring that off the bottom of the pan, but not lose the caramelization. And
Love
that's
it.
what the flavor is.
I love that. I think people can really take that home, because that is another secret sauce that you just gave us. Tell me, as a chef, what do you feel celebrates your heritage the most?
It's for me, I think it's the creativity and the role that food plays in general. So for me, the thing about being Black is I feel like we're super creative, innovative, people who can take anything and make whatever they want out of it. And especially switching from growing up not having a plant-based lifestyle and constantly just kind of converting foods and finding ways that I can still enjoy the foods that I grew up in, introduce people to the lifestyle and make it seem exciting, fun, and not boring. Like there's this constant opportunity as a chef, and especially as a Black chef, to be able to find a place where like health, creativity, culture all kind of lives. And that for me is like that's huge in the work that I do.
I love that. I think you've kind of answered my next question, but I'm going to ask, where do you see the future of Black foodways?
Yeah, so I really see it being so much more like fun. We've gotten to the point now where there's still people, don't get me wrong, you tell them that you that you're plant-based, you're not using any meat, and they're like, so what do you eat? What are you doing? Oh my God, I have no idea, right? We still kind of get that. But the more and more that people are introduced to the idea that plants are simply sides that have now become your main, right? So we think about our plants the same way that we think about our main, and we season them and we put love into them, we put care into them the same way. More and more, we're going to start to enjoy foods that are good for us. And so we don't have to pick between what tastes good versus what's good for us. The future is marrying those two together. So that's what I think.
Food to live for, not to die for, right?
Yes.
There are so many compliments with what you've shared, what you've cooked, all the tips. We want to thank you, Chef Brandy. We can't wait to try the recipes. I've already decided I'm doing your recipe and Chef Keeley's recipe at the same time. I'm just going to see how full I can fill this plate with all the recipes. Thank you so much for being with us. I know you'll see the comments, tons of kudos to you. Great tips, great learning. We now know why you are a part of this program. Thank you so much, and happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you. We are going to keep going. Is everyone so excited about what you've been seeing, hearing, learning? And then you get to take this beautiful guide that Plant Powered Metro New York has put together of all the chef's recipes so that you can just share this not only with your family, but with your friends. And we can really normalize plant-based, whole plant-based foods as food. It's food. Our next chef coming up is Chef Thomas. Chef Thomas is the founder of Fresh Start Initiative. Chef Thomas is an educator with over 20 years of experience cooking, instructing, and inspiring healthy eating habits for kids. Our kids are our future. Chef Thomas, welcome to Plant Powered Metro New York, celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Day. I can't wait to see what you're going to prepare for us. What do you have already for us? You want to unmic? Yes, thank you. I don't want to miss a word you have to say.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. I'm like watching everybody with the unmute, and that's one thing I said I would be ready. I'm like, I won't be on mute, and here I am.
You've got it.
Thank you for having me first and foremost. I'm really excited. I've been enjoying the other chefs. I'm thankful to them for being here also and sharing. And I'm thankful to Plant Power Metro for having me here on this day, which is a very special day. Today, I chose to do cauliflower wings. And I chose that because today, for us, it's a holiday. And anytime it's a holiday, I'm a dad to 3 children, but I have 2 teenage boys. And anytime there's a celebration, they always want some type of wings. And over the course of the last couple of years, I've been shifting them over to more plant-based foods. And the cauliflower wing, which comes up for just holidays and special events and things like that, has been something they've adopted. And now they really enjoy it. And they look forward to days like today where we're celebrating, or any other holidays where they can request a cauliflower wing. And what that is, basically, it's just preparing cauliflower florets as if you would do similar to a buffalo wing, a chicken wing. So I'm going to jump right in and get started. And basically, we just start with the head of cauliflower. And what we do here is, unlike broccoli, where you have a long stem, typically I would just take my knife and make my florets with the broccoli. But here, I just pull down on the florets. The stem is so short and tight that I just pull down and I just break these apart. It's really quick, really easy. All of the extra plant material I save to the side for composting, and I'll just break all of these off. And just like that, we're almost done. Voila. And we have our florets, all different sizes, which is okay. That's perfectly fine. I like it that way. I don't go in and use my knife and cut any of this up. I throw it right into my colander for a rinse. And we'll swipe this off to the side. So I'm going to throw these in the sink and give it a quick rinse. And while that's rinsing, we can make our coating. So I have just some all-purpose, for me, I use gluten-free flour. So this is all-purpose gluten-free flour. We have, my wife is very sensitive to gluten, and this is something she enjoys. That was actually my cayenne and a pinch of paprika. They're both about a quarter teaspoon. You can decide pretty much how you like it once you try it out. And then I have a little bit of Himalayan salt, and I do about the same amount of that, just a little pinch into the mix. And we just whisk this up. Just make sure you get that blended up. And the gluten-free flour it's a little more mealy than regular flour, but that's okay. Now, once we have this mix, we have our nicely rinsed cauliflower. Now, this is going to be a little quicker. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to throw all the cauliflower in. Sometimes I would sprinkle the mix over it. But you can also, if you just have two bowls, you put it in and you can give it a little shake to coat it, which is what I'm going to do now. So I just cover it with another bowl, give it a little shake, a little whirl. And we have a nice coating on these. I'll do it a little more.
Chef Thomas.
Yes.
I love that method. And it's a method that's great, I know you know, for getting off the peel from the garlic cloves.
Yep. Very
Great
true.
tip.
Unfortunately, I already peeled my garlic, so I can't show you that one.
But yes, everyone knows now. They've seen you do it.
Yes. So I'm going to put these into the bowl, into the other bowl. And what I would typically do here is I would sit these in the fridge. Because the florets are a little wet from the water, that's actually a good thing. It keeps you from needing to use any kind of oil or egg batter or any kind of substitute to get the flour to stick on. Now, I put these in the fridge for about an hour or so before I make them. And what that does, it gives the flour a chance to really soften up and stick really well to the cauliflower. What I find that if you do it too quickly, the flour stays a little crumbly, which is what I try to avoid. You get more of a nice batter coating when you let it sit in the fridge for a little bit before throwing it in the air fryer. You can also do this in the oven on roast. So once you put those into the air fryer, which, you know what, I'll do that right now. I'm just going to dump them right in. My air fryer is right next to me. So I'll put them in. Anyway, I'm not going to let them sit. I'm going to put them in.
I love this, Chef Nina, when we're looking at this conversation about wings, and
Yes.
especially what you just shared, Chef Thomas, about your kids, because they're asking for the food that we typically serve to kids. When you look on a kid's menu, what do you see? You see wings, you see fries, you see pizza.
Oh, yeah.
But being able to turn the head on that and create something that looks pretty much the same, tastes flavorful, but is giving them what they need is awesome.
And what they're finding, in my experience, is what I'm finding with my own children and other children that I work with, is that once they are at a point where they're off of the fried, the oils and things from the fried, they start to adopt the palate for the fresher things. So the fried food starts to taste a little more off, so to speak. It's almost the same way when I first introduced certain things, it tastes off to them because they were used to more fried foods and fast foods and processed foods. So the fresh, healthy stuff tastes a little off to them.
Can you say that again for the adults too? And I hear you. It definitely, I work with kids too, but families as well. We don't realize that our palates have actually been trained by the food we're eating. So when we eat something different, we can retrain it.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. You have to meet people where they are, especially the youth, but everybody. You have to meet them where they are. It's very hard to introduce something that's completely different to someone when they're used to something, like I said, so different. So what I do is, we just incorporate things little by little when we work with the kids and with my kids at home as well. When we work with the youth, we just introduce things, and we do a lot of comparison. So I don't tell them you can't have this or you can't have that. I'm like, let's compare what you have to this. How could we make it different? How could we make it healthier? And we do it gradually and in steps. So I'm going to just mince this garlic. I smashed my garlic, excuse the pounding, but I'm pulverizing it first, and then I'm just going to mince it up.
Can you tell us the setting on your air fryer?
I have it on actually air broil, because on this air fryer that's next to me, that's the only setting that goes up to 450. But it's basically air frying at a higher temperature. They try to get fancy with the names.
Yeah, someone wants to know, is it 400 and for how long?
It's 450. I typically do it for about 20 minutes. And it's the same if you put it in the oven. I do about 20 minutes. I like to get everything a little charred. So, but you don't want to overchar it. You don't want it to start to really dehydrate too much. You still want to have, so to speak, the meat of the cauliflower left. So I'm going to slide this to the side. I have my minced garlic. So in the oven, the same thing. I put my oven to 450. I set it to roast, or you can just put it in your convection, whatever you have. You can put it to 450 and do about 20 minutes, maybe 25, depending. Ovens vary with convection and things like that now. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take out these seeds, just for the sake of the heat. Be very careful when handling. These are habaneros. Just be very careful when handling hot peppers. Use gloves. I'm not using gloves right now, but use gloves, and make sure you wash your hands very thoroughly. The oils from the peppers can get into your skin and burn your skin. I'm very used to it. I handle a lot of hot peppers, but I still typically try to use gloves as much as I can when dealing with them, especially if I'm going to be cutting and de-seeding lots and lots of peppers. Also, even if you use gloves, still wash your hands when you take your gloves off. Sometimes a glove can have a little hole in it that you didn't see or notice. Make sure you wash your hands very, very thoroughly. Don't touch your face or anything like that. This is something I tell my students all the time. Fortunately, knock on wood, I've never had any accidents with hot pepper seeds as far as my students are concerned, but I've done it to myself several times. So I'm telling you from experience, you don't want to touch your face or any other areas with hot pepper seeds on your hands. I'm just going to cut these into little slices.
And Chef Thomas, we have a question. Can you replace the all-purpose flour with chickpea or almond flour for the coating?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can. What I would suggest is that you try it with whatever flour you're comfortable with using. I've tried it with chickpea flour as well. The results, they vary slightly, but not enough to make the dish not be what it's meant to be. You'll still get crispiness and things like that. And if you already use chickpea flour, you kind of know what to expect with the taste and the flavor. It doesn't throw it off very much at all because you're going to have a sauce over it. So you'll be fine. Try it out with whatever. I'm going to leave those couple of seeds in this one because I personally like heat. It's my wife and kids who are like, Dad, calm down. Calm down. With
it's really about the seasonings that you're going to add to your flour that are going to take over also.
Absolutely. And the flour is very lightly seasoned. I know some people really like to season their flour a lot more, and I'm okay with that as well. But I don't like to waste, so to speak, seasonings, because when you have a sauce that takes over the dish, then you kind of lose whatever seasonings you use in your flour mix. So I'm going to make my sauce. I have my coconut cream and I have my pure maple, and I have these things cut up. And my pot's already warmed up, and I'm going to just put this directly in the pan, right over just a hot pan. It's nothing in it. And I'm going to just let this sit over dry heat. And Chef Brandy made a good point. You don't really need much of anything. I put these things in here right on dry heat, and they start to brown because that's what's going to happen. There's nothing in there but the heat and the items. And even if they stick a little, it's okay. You can move it around with your silicone spatula or whatever. I have mine here. So as this starts to cook, I just move it around over the dry heat and I let it brown up. until this becomes a little fragrant. You can start to smell the garlic cooking, and it starts to brown a little, and that just takes a couple minutes. And I have the cauliflower going, but of course I've already prepared the dish, so I'm making it twice. And my kids love the stuff that comes on the side, which is the celery and the carrots. Now, if you guys want to see how I cut up the sticks, which is, you know, I think it's fairly straightforward, I can show you that. But what I do like to do is put a fresh crack of black pepper over it. So I just take my pepper cracker and I put a little fresh black pepper. And I also like to add a little bit of green onion or scallions on top. I just really love the taste of freshly cut scallions. And I have my sauce here. As you can see, it's in the bottom of the plate, but it's coated over the wings. We have a little bit of charring here from roasting in the air fryer. But I will cut up a piece of celery into sticks. And you know what? Might as well do a carrot as well.
Might as well.
Just in case, right?
Let us see all your tricks. Don't you love that, and agree, because you work with kids, I do, and Chef Rebecca, that it's really important to get them involved in the food cooking and preparation?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was a few seconds away from contacting you guys because my daughter was just like, I have to be on camera with you and assist you. And I'm like, I don't think we can do that. it's a time limit. I don't know if we'll have time for you to actually assist. But she was adamant. She's 8 and she loves to be in the kitchen. She loves cooking. She has her own tools, and she loves using them. Forget about it. And she loves being on camera even more than myself. So I simply just cut these into pieces and then I cut it in half and then again.
Yes.
Very, very, very simple with the celery.
You can almost follow the lines of the celery.
Exactly, exactly. Now I'm going to take my peeler, which I have this little tuck under the hand peeler.
We have a question. Is there a substitute for the coconut cream?
Yeah, I mean, you can use any non-dairy liquid that you would like to use. It's really up to you. Sometimes I don't use any at all. I just use the maple by itself. But you can use pretty much anything you want. You can use almond cream. There's cashew milk. There's oat milk. You can use any of it. Try it out. The maple pretty much blends well with most things. You won't get too much separation. So that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid like separation and things like that. But from my experience, I haven't had anything that I've mixed with it have too much separation. Plus, this is a serve immediately type of dish, so you wouldn't even have to worry about that anyway.
Right.
So avoiding the oil, let's say almond milk.
Right.
Would be
so
a
that's
good
what
choice,
if
right?
we don't use coconut here, then it's probably going to be almond or oat because that's what we have here. We have some cashew allergies, so we don't do cashew too much, but we do a lot of oat and a lot of almond. So this carrot is not that wide, but typically if the carrot is wide, I'll slice it twice. So I'll get 3 pieces, but this one I just cut in half because it's not that wide. But what I mean is that I will cut it like this and then like this again.
Yes.
As opposed to in half. You know,
That's
it really depends on your preference of how big you want your carrot sticks. Also, because these carrots aren't so big, they're fairly thin, I didn't square them off. When you have bigger, thicker carrots, you can literally just square them off, which means you just trim a little bit off each edge until you get an actual big rectangular carrot stick. And then you can cut them down and you'll have like perfect sticks that look more like this one from the center of the carrot. But for at home, if you're not doing a party and you need big major presentation, this is fine for your home cooking.
And it's a great way to get your kids and adults to eat more of their vegetables.
Right. And
with their wings.
How quickly you see we get some charring happening with the peppers. Ooh, excuse me. It's so fragrant, the garlic and the peppers. And then from this point, we're literally just going to pour in our coconut and our almond. And we're just going to blend it together.
Nice.
I mean, this is almost just as fast as me pulling out the prepared one. And I'll just let that simmer just for maybe a minute or two, just to get the flavor of the garlic and the peppers mixed in with the sauce. So this is our finished one. Once again, I'm going to flip back to me if that's okay.
Yes, it looks beautiful, Chef.
And
It looks so delicious.
I'm gonna have one really quickly.
Okay,
actually.
yes,
Yeah,
please let us know.
Let's see you eating that. And while you are, I think you have an idea there. We should definitely do something with kids. Have your daughter on one day. She sounds like she would be awesome.
Oh, she'd love it. She'd love it. Forget about it. I don't have her on much because I'm afraid she's going to take my spot.
She probably will, Chef, but that's okay. That's okay. If you can get kids to love to cook food and be on the screen where other kids can see kids cooking, I think it really speaks volumes to getting kids involved. There have been a lot of studies that kids grab for fresh, colorful foods before the fast food. So let's normalize never letting fast food hit the palate of our younger kids. Question for you: how's it taste?
Yes. Oh, it tastes
Are you
amazing.
happy with it?
I'm extremely happy. It has the spice I'm looking for. See, I have to be honest. The first batch I did, I left all the peppers. So it tastes great to me. The other one is probably going to be less spicy, but I know that'll be great as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. One question that came in the comments, I want to make sure gets answered. How do you clean your wooden cutting board?
That's a great question. So the wooden cutting board, I'm actually very, very particular about these cutting boards because I love the marks and everything they get over time. It gives it character, but you have to be careful as it starts to wear out because different foods and acids and things can seep in and start to corrode the wood. So I never use anything abrasive, always like a soft cloth or a very soft soapy sponge.
Yes.
And with that, once I clean it and it's dry, then I treat it with a wood conditioner.
Awesome.
And then once I condition it and the conditioner sets, then I buff it and I give it a food grade wood polish as well. So you can find these things on Amazon or at certain stores like, where you buy your cooking supplies and things like that. They have food grade, organic conditioners and things like that. So that is how I treat my boards, and I do it pretty much after every couple of uses.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that tip.
No problem.
As a chef, what celebrates your heritage the most?
I would say family and community. Those things is how I celebrate my heritage the most. I mean, I grew up in a huge family, and all I needed was a couple of aunts and cousins to come over, and we had like a celebration because that's how big my family was. And we always celebrated. I mean, we always gathered in the kitchen. That was just a communal place that everyone gathered. We always talked and chatted over food. Everything was just about food and laughing and sharing and loving on each other in that space. So I grew up just in the kitchen all the time. Even if I wasn't cooking or eating, it's just kind of where we hung out and chatted in the dining room and things like that. So for me, it really is just family and community. As I got older, that I continued that same tradition with all my closest friends and family. And I bring that into my cooking, into my classroom. And I tell them it's all about community, connecting with your family, talking about your past and where you come from, knowing also where your food comes from. That's really important. And I didn't always know that growing up. But as I learned it and I got older, I realized how important that is to share with my children and to bring into my work and into the classrooms and things like that. So community and family and just knowing your past and having an idea of where you want to go in the future.
I love that. I love that. And where do you see the future of Black foodways or food in general going?
For me, I really, really think that, my dream would be gardening. That is just really important to me. as I've gotten, more familiar with just fresh food over the past several years, and gardening and community gardens and urban gardens and things like that, and bringing freshness into the classroom. I mean, that was my goal from the first time I started this, was just to teach kids how to do things from scratch, and make things themselves. But immediately that you have to incorporate fresh things. And I was shocked to realize that there were so many children who couldn't identify, and even in middle school and sometimes in high school, couldn't identify what the fresh foods were that I had in front of them. And sometimes it was something as simple as a strawberry. And that really got to me. And I realized that, forget about the cooking and things like that. Like, we have to know what our food is and where it comes from. And when I have children telling me that they've only ever had a berry in a smoothie from a fast food restaurant and they don't know what it actually looks like, or they've never had one at home, it's something I realize is extremely important. And we have to combat that as best we can. And I think gardening and bringing gardens to every community, but just also making it a staple where everybody in the community is involved somehow with the gardening and the growing of the food, knowing where it comes from, sourcing it. And I believe one of the chefs earlier mentioned something very similar to that, and I'm in full agreement. I think gardening is the future. You can always have a chef. I've visited many gardens and farms and done cooking demos. You can always have one of us come to a garden or a farm and show you how to, work with the produce that you have and things like that. But I think it all starts with sourcing and us growing and learning where our food comes from. So I think that is really the future, is, having gardens in the communities that we're all connected to some way, somehow.
That's wonderful. We've so enjoyed your time with us, and those wings. I've got my greens, I've got my double stuffed potato, and now I've got my wings. I think I have this whole dish. We really love what you've shared, what you've said. We see this common thread. I think everyone that's tuning in can agree that we're hearing the gardens are important, eating whole plant-based foods, getting kids involved. They're our future, and just choosing to eat food to live for, not to die for. So thank you, Chef Thomas, for joining us. I can't wait to try your recipe in that beautiful guide that Plant-Powered Metro New York has put together for us with all the recipes of all the chefs. See you soon. How's everybody doing? Are you hungry yet? Have you gone ahead and started prepping one of the recipes? What's your favorite recipe so far? We have one more chef coming through, and that's Chef Ballet. He is a private chef that holds events all over the world, and he does catering when needed. But his style, his cuisine style or culinary style, is a combination of Caribbean, plant-based, and Ayurvedic therapies. So I know, Chef, you're going to tell us a little bit more about this Ayurvedic for those of us that don't know, but welcome to Plant-Powered Metro New York celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. First of all, I'd just like to say, happy Martin Luther King Day. And for those of you who do not know what Ayurveda is, it's a Eastern practice based on the elements that seeks to help us bring our bodies in balance by understanding the elements of our bodies and the balance of the elements in the foods that we consume. Ayurvedic by itself isn't a completely vegan or plant-based practice, but it can be catered specifically to that. And the recipe that I'll be sharing with you today is completely vegan, plant-based, and oil-free. Also, I'd like to say just a little bit about my background. I was raised in the Caribbean to Trinidadian family in the Virgin Islands, and I was actually raised on a farm where I began to learn a lot of the cooking techniques that I'll be sharing with you today. I also spent a little bit of time in New York City working as a chef. Some people may know me from having worked as the head chef of Savvy Bistro on Nostrand Avenue. I was also the sous chef at Ross Plant-Based Cuisine, Ethiopian Cuisine on Franklin Avenue there in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. So that's just a little bit about my background. And I would love to get into the recipe that I'm going to share with you guys today. The reason why I chose this recipe in honor of Martin Luther King and our heritage at large is because it's a recipe that I feel connected me with my family and my cultural heritage. And I think that everyone is going to love it and enjoy it. So first, I'd love to talk about the ingredients of this recipe. Starting with our sweet potato. And as we're going through this, I'd love to say that all of these ingredients are ingredients that were readily available. The dish that I'm going to be making with this is called Dukana. And Dukana is said to have first been developed in Antigua, but it is made all over the Caribbean. And the main ingredients are the sweet potato, the coconut. Not everyone does this, but this is my rendition of this dish. And I use cassava because of the starch. If many of you didn't know that, cassava is where tapioca starch comes from. So the starch in the cassava is very good and a healthy starch for you. The other ingredients, the coconut, of course, is always readily available in the Caribbean. Spinach or the callaloo, and then of course our spices. Now, many of you in Brooklyn, I'm sure you know that there's lots of Caribbean foods readily available there, which is a great thing. And then the stew that I'll be making to go on top of the Dukana, which is the sweet potato dumpling, will be mainly from Ackee. That's the ingredient here. You can find Ackee, excuse me, you can find Ackee pre-cooked in cans like this. You can order them online. And Ackee is a food that is great for plant-based, great for vegans and vegetarians, but it has been, I believe, historically misunderstood because people may not know that Ackee is a tree that was indigenous to West Africa and it came over during the diaspora. But before the Ackee fruit is ready to eat, before it's ripe on the tree, it's actually poisonous. So you're only able to eat it after it's completely ripened on the tree, which means when it opens. I was actually on vacation back home in the Virgin Islands in December, and it was still Ackee season. So I was up in the trees climbing, and it was really wonderful. I was able to, use it fresh. So most of the preparations for this dish have been done. I did all the boring stuff for you guys, but I'm gonna do some really fun stuff with you guys. And just a little further history about this dish. My mom actually taught me about this because she grew up in Trinidad, and she would tell me how it was something that the kids would take to school because perhaps plastic bags and stuff were not so used back then. So the banana leaf was used as one, a way of cooking the food, and two, a way of storing and keeping it clean and safe. So you can throw this in your bag and it's totally fine. You can carry it with you all day. And then you can actually leave it in your fridge for a couple of days and have it at your leisure. So it's a really wonderful dish. So I'm not going to delay anymore. I'm going to get right into the preparations for you. Skipping, the hard part. So in preparing this dish, you would start with your grater. This is a Caribbean style grater made from a piece of tin. I bought it right here in Fort Lauderdale. And you would start by actually, grating your sweet potato. It's all done already, but I'm just illustrating. You would grate all your sweet potato, being careful with your fingers, of course. So once you do the sweet potato, you would do the coconut as well. I've creeped back these coconuts. You would make sure you work it off of the shell and grate up your coconut. Next, you would have your cassava. When you grate up your cassava, make sure you peel off the skin. So you can easily peel the skin simply by cutting it off like this. And then you would grate it all up until you have your measure. And then, of course, the cornmeal. The cornmeal is actually a little bit of a binder that we'll be using to mix with the dumpling. And then we have our ginger. I get organic ginger, so I don't peel it. I just make sure I wash it and I grate it on the same grater until I have my measure. And then my spices. You can actually vary the spices in this. On my recipe, I have cloves, cinnamon, cardamom, my cloves, my cinnamon and cardamom. And you can use powdered version of these if you would like to, but I like to use my spices fresh. So what I do is I take my whole spices and I use my spice grinder. Throw them in there so that all of the essentials are still there. And so once all my spices are ground up, all of my main ingredients are prepared, I will take the spices and go ahead and add it to the mixture. I'm going to go ahead and add the cornmeal. And I'm simply going to mix this until it is completely mixed together. Okay. You can use a spoon. I'm just going to use my hand because it's the easiest way to do it.
Chef, can you prepare this ahead of time and then serve it a day later?
Yes, absolutely. And great question. And I do recommend it because when you first make it, you can eat it right away. But you do want to give it a moment to set, say 20, 30 minutes, because of course, after it's completely cooked, it will be a little bit soft, but as it cools and sets, it will get more firm. And actually, it has been more traditionally known to be used as a dessert. Some of the more traditional recipes do include sugar, but of course we are not using sugar in this one. So I definitely do recommend that it can be made ahead of time and stored in the fridge to be used later. So my favorite part about making this dish is wrapping it in the banana leaf, actually, because I have my own technique. I'm sure everyone who makes or has made this has their own little technique, but I'm going to show you my technique, and I find it really works well for me. So everything is pretty completely mixed up here, pretty fluent. And as you can see, if I squeeze it, there's some liquid coming out. That's the natural liquids from the potatoes, but it's perfect. It's holding together. I don't need any more cornmeal. It's perfect right now. So next, I'm gonna switch this out and bring my cutting board closer so that you all can see the wrapping action happening.
This seems like another great dish to get the family involved with in preparing and kids.
Absolutely. I think it's really a fun dish. And, speaking about like food preparation at a time, we have to think about how we use our time these days. I think, we have so much, our kids have so much screen time. We spend a lot of time on our computers and doing social media, and it is needed, but we have to find the balance of activities like this because it's fun and it also connects us with our culture. So I definitely think it's like a fun kind of project, kind of dish. So as you see, I take about a half cup amount of my mixture and I place it directly in the center of my banana or plantain leaf. And once it's there, I'm going to use kind of like a 9-panel fold technique. So you have these are where the lines are going to be boom, boom. So first I'm going to fold here. 1, 2. And then once you have the 1, 2 fold, go 3. Actually, I'm going to do the other side first because it has the rough edge on this side. So I'm going to do 3 and then 4. And there we have our perfect little pocket up the end. All right, now here's the really fun part. This is my wrap technique. So I have my food grade string here, a pastel twine. And by the way, there is another dish for those of you who may not know, very similar to this. This is Dukana. It's called pastel. And a pastel is pretty much the exact same thing as Dukana, except they have meat in it. They put meat in the middle of the pastel. So it's like a more of a bit of a hearty, but in this case, it's totally vegan. You can experiment with, adding vegan meat substitutes. Some people even put raisins inside of it. You can really get creative with it. So here is my technique. First, I take the center of my string and I start it right under the middle. And then I'm gonna go over the top and then kind of like go in a parallel direction. Or should I say perpendicular direction. Flip it over and then repeat. When you repeat, you can move the center so that it creates kind of this tapestry, right? So I'm gonna go there and do that again. Boom, boom, and then flip it again. And this time, every time I flip it, I kind of move the string so that it covers more area. Until we have this nice little design going. There we go. See the pattern unfolding. Should I say folding?
It looks like a beautiful gift you're about to present to someone.
I love this. And when I haven't made this in a while before, I decided to make it for this event. And it really connects me with, just my home, where I come from, my mom, my family. And that's why I decided to share it, because I think that it's fun and everyone's really going to enjoy time with it. So at the end, what I also do like to do is leave a little bit of a string at the end, because what we're going to do next is actually drop it in a boiling pot of water. Cook it. And we're going to cook it for, theoretically, about 45 minutes to 1 hour. However, I do have my pre-cooked and prepared version right here. So once you get it like this, complete the rest of your mix.
Chef, I can feel what you're saying when you said how it's connecting you.
Yes.
I feel so meditative watching you and listening to you. It's really amazing.
Thank
and
you.
It's connecting me, like, my happy place is cooking. So watching you and listening to you is making that connection. And I think that nurturing, which Chef Thomas had talked about before too, when it comes to cooking, is something that you're giving. You're not just giving the food, you're giving this other love and care and nurture.
Yes, it's so true. And it's like we're taking, too often I realize, being in the younger generation, we don't embrace the traditions of our past and carry them forward. And that's our job. That's the way, for us to really share our lineage and honor the legacy of our traditions, and I love it so much, and it's funny you say that, because I do study yoga as well, for those who may not know. And I've had a long meditation practice, and so food is actually very meditative. And there's a word in Ayurveda or yoga or Hindu, Sanskrit, called siddhana. And what that word means and embodies is it's the act of gaining insight and enlightenment through actions. It could be action like grading, an action like wrapping, an action like washing the dishes. But when you bring consciousness and conscious awareness to your activity, that is what makes it a siddhana. That's what helps you on your journey, towards enlightenment, even simply doing everyday activities. So that's really wonderful. I'm glad that you're able to feel
and
that.
I just want to stop here and pause for a moment. This is something that we were talking about this week with a lot of the trauma that we're all experiencing. I think we as Black people, we understand trauma, but everyone has trauma.
Yes.
And so one of the things that happens with trauma, which I feel that you're expressing right now, is we want to get away from the trauma. Mm-hmm. And so what this is doing is it's bringing a kind of presence. We need to be present in our experience. And I have to say, cooking And food definitely does that for me.
Absolutely. It couldn't be any other way, because if you weren't present in the kitchen, what's going to happen? You're going to burn that pot. You're going to, something's going to go wrong that maybe you're not paying attention to, but it really is bringing, our 100% awareness to the action, to the moment. And, side note, that's also, I do have healthy eating guidelines based on the Ayurvedic principles. I'm happy to share it with everyone. Just let me know later on. But one of those principles is really bringing the attention and awareness not only to the act of cooking, but the act of eating. It's paying attention to your food. It's having a relationship with your food. It's not being, on a business call, or not being on your phone or totally distracted when you should be nourishing your body and nourishing the connection that you have with your food and with your culture. So that's a really big takeaway. So moving forward, now that we have this all set, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ackee and that portion of this dish. Again, the ackee, I'm going to go ahead and open the can here and show it to you guys. When ackee is pre-cooked like this, it's very delicate. It's actually ready to eat. You don't need to do much to it except add it to your stew. So this is what the ackee looks like. I like to say when the lobe is whole, it actually resembles, believe it or not, a human brain. And so maybe it's good for our brain. So I'm not sure, but I do know that it has a high, between 3 to 9 grams of protein, which is great for the plant-based diet, and many other health benefits. And so I chose to make this ackee stew, or Ackee Subji, also because I feel like it really helps to connect our African culture, being a tree that's indigenous to the west coast of Africa, and also now being propagated and grown in the Caribbean. It really is a food that I feel has been right alongside African people throughout the diaspora. And so, and many people mostly know about it from the famous Jamaican ackee and saltfish. But of course, I wanted to show different ways that you can use it, because it is so versatile. So I cooked ackee. I chose to use pimento peppers, thyme, garlic. I'm not going to chop or prepare this because they're all done already. I just want to show you our organic red bell pepper and our onion. Okay, so this was simply chopped up, and then I sauteed also my mushrooms. Not present here, but I sauteed my mushrooms already in this stew, and I used coconut milk. I used coconut milk instead of oil to do my sauteing or cooking in the pan. And this is homemade fresh coconut milk. You can buy canned coconut milk in the store, or if you know how, I do have a at-home coconut milk recipe. It's very simple. You would take the coconut meat and blend it in a strong blender or food processor and with water, and then you would draw it through a cloth just like this. This was used already. I made my coconut milk with this, and then when you're done with that, you'll be left with the coconut fiber, just like so. Okay. If you don't want to go through that whole process, you can very easily purchase a can of coconut milk. But again, the more fresh ingredients that you can use, the more you're going to have the vital life force energy of that food. Rebecca, do you have any questions? Because I'm getting to the point where I can show you the dish now if you're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, show us the dish, and then Chef Nina is going to ask you a question.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, let me remove this, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the plating, okay? And you can see exactly how this is presented, all right? One more.
Chef, while you're plating, I want to go ahead and ask you the question that I've been asking all the chefs, because you are showing us this so much. As a chef,
Yes.
what celebrates your heritage the most?
I believe that what celebrates my heritage the most is really taking the time to embrace that heritage and to let that heritage continue to be a part of us and not forgotten, because I think that we're moving so fast forward, and a lot of the young people feel that maybe it's not cool or not popular to really, take grandpa or grandma's recipe and make it. And so sadly, a lot of these recipes get lost and forgotten in translation. And so I think that really embracing that and helping to carry those traditions forward, whether it be a vision, a dream, or a recipe that embodies the visions of our ancestors and those who came before us.
I love that. Now I'm excited to try your dish. So let's see how you plate it up for us. And then I'm going to dovetail into my next question that you presented to us so well.
So thank you. So this one, I just took it out of the pot. It's slightly warm for this plating. So you'll need a little scissors or knife, sharp knife to cut the string. It's like a gift. Okay.
It's a beautiful gift.
The string. Unwrap it. And one pointer, when you're wrapping your banana leaf, do be careful not to add too much tension along the parallel lines. See what I mean? Because the string will, if you add too much tension, will cut the parallel lines of the plantain leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, okay? But that's okay. So I'm gonna unwrap it. And this one I actually double wrap because sometimes if they do have that break, you can take another leaf and making the lines perpendicular, wrap it and actually strengthen that wrap. So look at that.
Look at that. Can you just push it through the camera? Looks delicious.
So it's very firm. It is firmer when it's cooler. When you warm it back up again, it gets a little bit less firm. I do like to have it cold sometimes, just as a snack, you know. So once that's ready, I'm gonna go ahead and get my stew just prepared. And before I plate it, I'll give you a little sneak peek. That is the stew that I made. It's described in the recipe. The ackee was added last after I sauteed the mushrooms and onions and spinach and everything. I did not even really stir this because if I stir this, the ackee is just going to become mush. But I want the ackee to retain its integrity there. And coconut milk, of course, has become this really delicious broth here with all of the flavors in it. So here we go.
And can you use the banana leaves a second time? We have a question.
No, I wouldn't recommend using the banana leaves a second time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Here we go.
We eat with our eyes first, and that is a very aesthetically appealing dish.
It's beautiful. I love it. So the last time I actually made this dish, I did a 5-course vegan meal. I was back home on the island of St. Croix, and this was one of the courses. I'm going to punch a little bit of time, and that is Ackee Subji with the Dukana.
That is just beautiful. Rebecca, are you ready to eat?
Yeah, I'm hungry. Are you?
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
And I really feel like I'm learning so much because that's why we're here. We're really here also to learn the culture
Yeah.
And this is something that we need more of in the US, is we need to have our culture be a part of the food systems.
Yeah.
And so whether that's schools or hospitals, so, you know, just even myself, just learning all these things throughout the diaspora is so important and so meaningful. So thank you so much, Chef.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. So
And
happy to
last
be here
question.
and able to share this with everyone.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chef. And last question. I think I know the answer with you, but I'm going to let you say it. Where do you see the future of Black foodways going?
So I see the future of Black food, or African American, African Caribbean food. I believe that the way forward is through embracing our past. And it doesn't always mean doing the old things completely the same way, because things do evolve. But I do think that the future of African American, African Caribbean food, culture, and health is through embracing the recipes and the traditions and the visions of our past. There's one anecdote I'd love to share with you that I learned when I spent a little time in Jamaica. There are many sayings in the islands from Jamaica to Trinidad, and one of them is to leave it in a past. And that might sound confusing, but what it means in Jamaica or anywhere, if you have a road, if you have two streets like this, and there's a pass is a path that cuts the corner, right? And if you want someone to find something, you leave it in the past, because someone's going to walk there and someone's going to find it. So funny enough, I feel, you know, we are right now, we're doing it. We're leaving something in the past for someone to find, and that is the way forward.
I love that. I love that's a wonderful way to end our chefs preparing such beautiful, delicious, nutritious, affordable, oil-free food. Many people think you can't cook like this without oil, and you've all proven different. And there are such beautiful comments coming through for you, Chef Ballet, and all the chefs. Thank you for joining us. Plant-powered Metro New York showed up, and everybody is excited to try the recipes that have been provided. I'm so thrilled and grateful for being invited by Plant Powered Metro New York and Rebecca Johnson to be your moderator. But Rebecca, I'd like to invite you back, and Liana, and we'll take this home. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We want to hear your comments and your thoughts. Try these dishes. I'm going to make a plate of everything, and I'll let everybody know. Thank you again for having me.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Chef Nina, and all of our chefs. What an amazing day. And I brought my little one here, Chef Thomas, because, you know, we talk about this being a day off of school, but gosh, it should be a day on. And I think what you've shown us and what I want to model for my kids is how important Black heritage is, and how this day is a day when we need to honor and respect the future of the Black community and the foodways that make healthy living possible. So thank you to all of our incredible chefs, and also to Jim Spellos behind the scenes from our team, who's been working really hard doing all the tech to make everybody look as good as they can. I hope you bring home a lot of great ideas for how to make your foods healthier, and to embrace some of the beauty of the traditional indigenous foods that are a part of not just African American heritage, but also Caribbean American heritage. There's so much we can all learn. And I know as an ally, I want to be there with all of you making this possible. So thank you. And I also want to thank all of our co-presenters. We had a number of organizations share about this event with their communities, and I welcome all of you. I'm sharing in the chat box a number of links to their organization so that you can learn more about each of them. And one of the things that's really important to us at Plant Powered Metro New York, when we talk about eating a whole food plant-based diet, one that embraces primarily whole plant foods, we want people to learn that not only is it possible, but it is fun and delicious. And I think you've taken all of those ideas. The next step, though, is what's most important. It's not about what you watch, it's about what you do. And so later this week, we will be closing registration for our 21-day plant-powered jumpstart, which is really a celebration and an opportunity for all of you to jump in and learn how to make whole food plant-based nutrition a part of your day-to-day life. We give you a lot of support, and we give you a lot of motivation and skill building and mentorship, and it all comes through with community support. So I'm sharing also in the feed more information about our 21-day plant-powered jumpstart. Definitely sign up before the end of the week, because we begin next Wednesday evening with an orientation, and then many Sunday afternoons beyond, we will be getting together online and learning further and supporting you in making the change. So, and then there are a few other things we want to encourage you to do as well. For anybody who doesn't want to go dive deep into the Jumpstart, we do have a monthly opportunity for people to learn more about how to get started with whole food plant-based nutrition. And our next event will be on February 3rd with a culinary educator from Planned Parenthood Metro New York, as well as a nutrition educator. And we will be screening a fantastic film called Plantwise, which was produced by the Advent Health System, which Chef Nina is a part of. You can join us on Monday, February 7th for the screening, and it's going to feature one of the folks who's in the film, as well as Dr. George Guthrie, who is a leader in the Advent Health community, medical community. And last, I also wanted to give some remarks on behalf of our sponsor, Marlene Meyerson, JCC Manhattan. So we work very closely with Caroline Colas, who's the Senior Director of Health and Wellness, and she deeply regrets that she can't be here today as she's traveling back from Pennsylvania, where, of course, there's a lot more snow than in the New York area. And she really is very proud to stand and join with all of our organizations to make this. This is actually our second annual Martin Luther King Day event happen. And this is the second year in a row that the JCC has participated, and they're really honored to be a sponsor of today so that we can financially support all of our chefs in addition to just featuring their food. And that is a key piece of our solidarity with your communities. And as Caroline says, as a Jewish community center located on the Upper West Side where all are welcome, it's at the heart of our mission to foster inclusion, diversity, and equity in the community. And they are, of course, grateful to all of us today for making this happen in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So everybody stay safe. There's so much we can do together to make healthy eating a featured part of our lives. One of the things that we are doing with the JCC in the month of February is to bring the Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn and his family to share about how to fortify your heart health with food. Dr. Esselstyn did some of the earlier research on how a whole food plant-based diet can support people who have heart disease and changing forever the future of their disease. So I'm sharing again in the feed a link to join us through the JCC and with Planned Parenthood Metro New York, where we'll have every Wednesday in February a feature with the Esselstyn family. So I'm going to pass it back now to Chef Rebecca, who's been a wonderful collaborator really for a few months now in preparing this event, to give you a send-off.
Hello.
Hey,
Can
Rebecca.
you hear me?
Yeah. Can you put your video on so we can see you too?
Hi, Leanna.
Hey, Rebecca, I think we still can't see you. Can you turn on your video? There we go.
I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We can see you also.
I can't hear myself. So as long as you can hear me, that's what matters. Okay, so thank you so much. This was an amazing, amazing day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, our chefs, for showing us your delicious, soulful recipes and for telling us more about your food story. And I want to give some snaps to our moderator, Chef Nina Curtis, Executive Chef for Adventist Health, for doing an amazing moderating job and just adding so much value. We all have a food story. And today I want you to think about what's yours and how can your food story move you to improving your own food choices, but also getting involved in ensuring that other New Yorkers have access to healthier choices. You know, in Martin Luther King's day, they marched to end hunger and poverty, but in our time, we're advancing his dream to ensure that New Yorkers are not just fed, but fed healthfully. Science has shown that poor nutrition can contribute to stress, exhaustion, and illness. And that's why plant-powered Metro New York exists. So today was a celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. King, but it was also a commemoration of his service to the citizens of our country and the world. So what do we need to do for the other 364 days that are left in this? Well, it's a little less than that, but for 2022, let's focus in 2022 about food. So my question as we close is, what will you do to increase your health through adding whole plant foods to your diet? If you want to learn more about what it means to eat that way, the whole foods plant-based way, which we have seen is amazingly delicious and not difficult to do, as our presentations were less than 20 minutes, and that is go to plantpoweredmetro.ny.org. And so some things we heard today about transforming our plates in our community are adding nutrient-dense plant foods to your plate, eating together, being present when we eat together, phones off, devices off. And eating and living well is not just about what we add, but also what we take away, like minimizing oils, sugars, and fats, which lead to many of the conditions that our people struggle with in this nation. Something else we cannot deny is the environment, which includes growing or having some control related to our food waste, and what we do with it, and the soil and how we treat it. And other topics near and dear to my heart are Black farming and adding cultural cuisines within our institutions like schools and hospitals. And one big one is that we must empower our youth. Thank you, Leanna, for bringing your little one. And next, we hope to see Chef Thomas's little one, and really introducing them to the beauties of plant-based eating and adopting healthy habits. I can speak for our chefs by saying that one of our 2022 goals is to make health and food sustainable in our communities. The American food system is built upon a history of agriculture that relied on slave labor. So dismantling racism is critical to transforming our food system. They go hand in hand. Therefore, our work in serving communities must be impacted by a system that is different. It is transformed, and we must have alliances with one another and go across those lines that have been drawn, which we know keep us apart. And as Martin Luther King has told us, we need programs that hold the food system accountable. So we, like Dr. King, have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day that include nutrient-dense plant foods for a healthy body and mind. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next plant-powered event.